अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय.
We start with my wish. Yeah. Mama, you want to read my wish and then we continue?
Yes, yes.
Jai Baba.
My wish, अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय. My wish, the lover has to keep the wish of the beloved. My wish for my lovers is as follows. Do not shirk your responsibilities. Attend faithfully to your worldly duties, but keep always at the back of your mind that all this is Baba's. When you feel happy, think Baba wants me to be happy. When you suffer, think Baba wants me to suffer. Be resigned to every situation and think honestly and sincerely. Baba has placed me in this situation. With the understanding that Baba is in everyone, try to help and serve others. I say with my divine authority to each and all that whosoever takes my name at the time of breathing his last comes to me. So do not forget to remember me in your last moments. Unless you start remembering me from now on, it will be difficult to remember me when your end approaches. You should start practicing from now on. Even if you take my name only once every day, you will not forget to remember me in your dying moments. अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय.
Par Meher Baba ki Jai. Thank you. So, is that Ashok or Ashish on the other side?
Yeah, Jay Baba, Ashok.
You're a bit late, I think. Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah, I was a bit late by 1 minute.
Usually you're before time. Yeah.
No, I saw the alarm, but just 1 minute it missed. That's what happens. Baba has given us the significance of time, even a minute.
I was also late. I came in only at 7:25, which is late by my standards. I
Yes.
hate to be on the back foot, scrambling with everything.
It's okay. 7:30 is the right time.
Yeah, correct. So let's start with so where we are on the Discourses journey. Given that I think both of you were not there for last couple of weeks, I think if I remember correctly. So we had some very nice discussions around sanskaras. Then we launched into God, and personally, I remember the last discussion last Sunday was very nice, where so this chapter has gone up in my favorites list, right? The perfection chapter, because Baba brings out the difference between um, the perfection as understood by humans or creation or the phenomenal world, and the perfection in the sense of what happens when you get it in a spiritual sense. You get perfection in a spiritual sense, right? And it's beautifully explained, and some very nice examples and analogies are there. So I really enjoyed reading this again. As always, I think there is no end to how many times you can enjoy and also take away something new from discourses each time you read it. So I used to often wonder, Kama has been reading from 2004, right? From 2004, he's been reading discourses and God Speaks. And I know he's been very lackadaisical in attendance for months now, which is another problem. But what I remember, and I think he sticks to it very carefully, is every day he reads, apart from the seven seven sayings, all the important messages of Baba, he surely reads one random discourse, right? And I think that's a very good habit. It's a very good habit because I used to even wonder what will he get out of it, given that he's read it so many times. And then last Sunday was a reminder that you can still get a lot out of Baba's atomic bombs, where he and I think it's also the nature of humans, right? We learn in various ways, and the way the mind grasps is very contextual. So we learn different things each time and think that is the end, in the sense that it's like the six blind men. One second. I think I need my desperately need my charger, because I'm almost out of charge.
Your
Yeah.
charge.
So, any other thoughts?
No, I was thinking you are charged up, but your device is not charged. Okay.
Yes. So I am all charged up, but yes, device is not keeping up. I think we need now, the next frontier is we need Wi-Fi charging, right? Enough of wires. Should be
Yes,
able to
yes.
get Wi-Fi charging. Then you don't have to carry cables.
Yes. Did I miss something? Because I went offline anyway.
Not
Yeah.
much.
So we were talking about the next wave of technology innovation. We want Wi-Fi charging.
Oh yes.
Anyway, so the next chapter on our journey is the last one we did was perfection. This time we are doing search for God. Right? Search for God is the chapter that we are picking up on. So as always, I think let's just read the subtitles. That has been helpful to set the context and then go back and see if we understood it that way. So search for God starts with grades of belief in God. And next is true aspirant seeks knowledge of spiritual realities. The aspirant has open mind. Then there is an illustrative story. Then ordinary person indifferent to existence of God. Aren't we all? Yeah. I mean, maybe at least the people on this call may not be indifferent to existence of God, but we know a lot of people who think like that. Occasions that provoke thought. Unharnessed power of desperation is destructive. Divine desperateness is the beginning of spiritual awakening. God or nothing. Re-evaluation of experiences in light of positive reality. And then finding God is coming to one's self. I have a feeling that maybe the concept of vairagya is covered in this chapter. If you look at occasions that provoke thought, that sounds like the Smashana Vairagya concept maybe brought out in that subpara. Yeah, so that's what we are covering in this chapter. So let's dive right in. So by the way, I've been adding the physical page number in the Trello card because it's easier. We don't know where to go to find the chapter. So as and when I remember, as and when I'm taking a new chapter, I'm doing that. Yeah, let's get started then. Hi, Ashish.
Hello, yeah, Baba.
Yeah, Baba. Okay, search for God. So let's start with search for God. I will read for a bit. Meher Baba ki jai. The search for God. Grades of belief in God. Most persons do not even suspect the real existence of God. Naturally, they are not very keen about God. There are others who, through the influence of tradition, belong to some faith or another and acquire the belief in the existence of God from their surroundings. Their faith is just strong enough to keep them bound to certain rituals, ceremonies, or beliefs. It rarely possesses that vitality which is necessary to bring about a radical change in one's entire attitude toward life. There are still others who are philosophically minded and have an inclination to believe in the existence of God, either because of their own speculations, the assertions of others. For them, God is at best an hypothesis or an intellectual idea. Such lukewarm belief in itself can never be sufficient incentive for launching upon a serious search for God. Such persons do not know of God from personal knowledge, and for them, God is not an object of intense desire or endeavor. Mamaji, you might be reminded on this chapter about the question you had yesterday. Though we were not reading Discourses yesterday, you had the question of why does what's his name? Who mentioned the Sufi saint who mentioned religion's role, right? So if you look at the middle of this paragraph, that there is mention of rituals, and there it is. Their faith is just strong enough to keep them bound to certain rituals, ceremonies, or beliefs. So in the sense that in the gradation of our identification with God, gradation of our relationship and understanding of God, there can be many. And one real stage is that of religion, where that's the construct that gives us the idea that there is something that is outside of us, probably something outside of us that we don't know enough about, we cannot control, and probably that controls us. That's how we start. And then from there, we go on to various other gradations. Like the other one is it's a hypothesis or an intellectual idea and so on. But even all that is not enough, is what Baba is saying here, right? So that's my takeaway. Any reactions?
I want you to read the first sentence of this chapter, and I didn't get the purport of that.
Most persons do not even suspect the real existence of God, and naturally they are not very keen about God. So
What
yeah,
is the
so it says that so we take it for granted, but they are also not very keen about it.
keen about it?
So it's two different statements. So in that sense, it's not the best way to start this chapter. I agree. But what it's saying is they are not very naturally drawn and everything. But at the same time, they are not. They don't question the existence of God. So so you're not an atheist. You're an agnostic or a believer. But apart from that, you're not committed to know more or understand and get deeper into the idea of God. That's my understanding. But what do others feel? What do you think?
Now, first, when I read that most persons do not even suspect the real existence of God, I thought they accept God. But that doesn't seem to be the meaning, isn't it?
No. So the second part.
Naturally, they are not keen about God.
Two extremes. Correct, two extremes. So one is not even extreme. So one is, like you said, oh yeah, we know there is a God. The other is, I know there is a God, but I don't want to spend too much time thinking about it and worrying about it. I have my life to deal with, right? So those are the two things that are mentioned as the concept.
Yes.
So yeah. Others, any thoughts? Okay, let's continue. True aspirant seeks direct knowledge of spiritual realities. A true aspirant is not content with knowledge of spiritual realities based on hearsay, nor is he satisfied with pure inferential knowledge. For him, the spiritual realities are not the object of idle thinking, and the acceptance or rejection of these realities is fraught with momentous implications for his inner life. Hence, he naturally insists upon direct knowledge about them. This may be illustrated from an occurrence in the life of a great sage. One day, he was discussing spiritual topics with a friend who was quite advanced upon the path. While they were engaged in this discussion, their attention was diverted to a dead body that was being carried past them. In quotations, this is the end of the body, but not of the soul, the friend remarked. The master says, "Have you seen the soul?" asked the sage. "No," the friend answered. And the sage remained skeptical about the soul, for he insisted upon personal knowledge. So, yeah, so this is the sage still having his doubt. Aspirant has an open mind. What's that, Ashok? Ashish, I think. What was that question? Did I hear somebody say?
Thing is, first line was a true aspirant, right? True aspirant. So,
Yeah, correct.
how to become the true aspirant?
Very long answer, right? So, what is
What
that?
will be the short answer?
Is it?
What will be the short answer?
Short answer is a recognition of true values of what we see around us, and have the right relationship with God. But that's just 20,000 feet. I mean, 20,000 feet above, right? So that breaks into a lot of things, right? From right action, use of viveka, use a lot of all the aspects of this discourses and spiritual practice is what we need to put in place on a daily basis all the time.
Again, that's again the path,
Mamaji,
right?
Ashok, what is true aspirant? Yeah, that's path. Yeah, get on the path. What is true aspirant? According to you.
One who has complete belief and surrender.
Fair.
Hello? Am I audible?
Yeah, fair. Yes, fair. I said fair.
And complete belief, right? Complete belief. I don't know if I'm diverting the topic or not, but complete belief. That topic is also means complete belief may or may not be possible sometimes. If someone gets 100% belief, complete belief, will that person able to handle whatever the things happening currently, right? His normal day-to-day life, can he handle those one if he becomes a complete 100% belief on the God? Are you getting my question? Means 100% belief.
No, give an example.
Yeah.
To get it clearer.
Means I think if you get 100% belief on the God, I don't think the person will able to stay in this day-to-day life. Might be he will that soul will become such a that soul will become so diverted to the God. That soul will not able to do his day-to-day activity or something like that. If he has the 100% belief, that's what I feel on the God.
So I just
Yeah,
want
so
to
yeah, after you, Ashok, go ahead.
Yeah, if I may. See, we just read today how to love God, and it's and also there is uh, another message given by Meher Baba known as "My Wish," and the first sentence of that is, "Do not shirk your responsibilities." So he says, while you have to carry out your worldly
That's absolutely correct. I'm not saying that's wrong. Definitely,
no,
we have to complete our responsibilities and all.
no,
But
no.
whatever
So
the sorry, go ahead.
So, and the second line says, attend faithfully to your worldly duties, but keep always at the back of your mind that all this is Baba's. So, what I'm trying to say is here that along with your worldly responsibilities, you can have a balance. You conduct your worldly responsibility, yet you acknowledge that the highest of the high is Meher Baba. Both are possible, and people are doing it as well. So, you don't have to be 100% into spirituality and forget every of your responsibilities that you're a father or a son or whatever is your role in life, or you have a professional role, whatever it may be, as a entrepreneur or whatever is.
for yeah, but I think for that also you need we need the Baba's grace. If real means like, because whatever the
Yes.
past,
So
past experience like Sant Tukaram or whatever sons I have seen, they used to be in their family life, and when they get that kind of realization or awakening, I will not say the realization, awakening, that kind of awakening, they totally changed. They totally changed. So if the soul can really handle all these responsibility and everything after he has a complete awakening, it's then definitely that soul needs the Baba's grace. That's what I will say. It's not an easy task.
changing the goalpost. You are changing the goalpost. You use the word belief. See, awakening can be seen as different. Okay. You started by the word belief. When you start with the
Right.
word belief, you also answered something. You added a very interesting comment, which is what I wanted to say. 100% conviction is a gift of the master, right? Because that
Right.
comes
Right.
only with grace, right? But you have to. So now, first, let's go back to your original word. Original word you said is belief. Can you have 100% belief and yet be in the world, or not?
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So the answer, according to me, is yes, and the answer, according to Baba, is yes. All of us need to be like that, in the sense that we cannot, like Ashok rightly pointed out, you cannot be away from the responsibilities that you are uh, being born with. I would say born with and created around you. You cannot run away from that, and that means that that's a necessary context for you. You have to, that is irrespective of your belief, right? Now, further on, you change the word and said, is it awakening? See, post awakening, it's all it's very, very subjective, right? So it depends on whether your duty, whether you have duty or not, whether you are going to come back to form or not. Awakening, I'm using to represent God realization. Let's say you get God realization, you get to seventh plane. When that happens, whether you come back and deal with the creation consciousness or not, the world around you, your family, your disciples, or not even disciples, I shouldn't use the word disciples, people around you, rest of the universe, would you even want to deal with them, and would you have responsibilities for them? It depends on your specific sanskaras and the journey plotted for you as that individual soul, right? So, awakening answer, like you rightly said, there have been examples of masters who have significantly changed after that. They go into a different state of existence, and their relationships and their past is significantly different from what it was before. Totally agree. So these are my very broad comments for belief, awakening, and what we should expect as a true 100% believer.
Uh, can I have a few words? Yes.
Of course, please.
Uh, we started with uh,
Belief.
trying to define aspirant, isn't it? So
Yes, correct.
aspirant is
True
in
aspirant.
duality. So we
Correct.
are God. That is the ultimate. But the aspirant is searching whether we are God or how. If so, how do I become God? That is one aspect. So while you are in duality, you have a different life. you have to live that life with some quality, some say definitions as Baba has given in all his messages and other things, but keep moving towards that unity. I am God. So that is the path. So aspirant is moving away from this duality towards unity. So I feel that Ashish has a feeling that those who are awakened are they are very near that say God state. They don't take any responsibility in this mundane world. So we have seen so many monks. So they are not responsible for any activity which is going on in this world. They are aloof from that. So that is a stage in spirituality. So we have to go through, each soul has to go through that, and then ultimately reach or become God. So there, maybe Ashish has a point there, whether they are useful to this community, whether they are doing any responsibility, because he gave an example of some of the masters who are living as normal human beings as we see in this dual world. But once they got awakened, they kept away from all these things. So is it okay like that? That is the question in Ashish's mind, I feel. So I think we have to think on these lines. So we are not given a life here to live and then take responsibilities of living, but we have to do that till we reach the state of godhood. So that's my take on this.
Perfect.
Right.
You
Yeah.
don't have a choice till then.
Yes.
Ashish, did we end up helping you or confusing you further?
Yeah, definitely. But again, my last comment will be, even to become 100%, I will not go to the awakening and those things. But at least for to become a even aspirant or 100% to get the belief, you need Baba's grace. That's what I think. Without
Yes,
grace,
yes,
even
that is
you
there.
can't. The soul can't become like 100%. You can't get a 100% belief or something. Mhm.
Okay, let's continue. Aspirant has open mind. Although the aspirant cannot be content with second-hand knowledge or mere guesses, he does not close his mind to the possibility that there could be spiritual realities that have not come within his experience. In other words, he is conscious of the limitations of his own individual experience and refrains from making it the measure of all possibilities. He has an open mind toward all things that are beyond the scope of his experience. I repeat, he has an open mind toward all things that are beyond the scope of his experience. While he does not accept them on hearsay, he also does not rush to deny them. The limitation of experience often tends to restrict the scope of imagination, and thus a person comes to believe that there are no realities other than those which may have come within the ken of his past experience. But usually, some incidents or happenings in his own life will cause him to break out of his dogmatic enclosure and become really open minded. Right? So, what are these incidents or happenings? Any idea? So, something that makes him think beyond or acknowledge the fact that uh, experiences of the five senses are not the beyond, be all and end all of reality. There are things that are happening beyond that as well. So, what are those experiences? Let me put it this way. There are, yeah, go ahead.
These experiences can be anything. spontaneous revelations, unconnected thought process, or even say reasoning to an extent on certain happenings around may also give rise to a new perception also. So these are, and we have to be very clear that sometimes without any reasoning, we get a flash and then feel it is different from what I had thought of all these days. So that is sort of a, say, sort of an awakening in a very small measure. Jai Baba.
Beautiful. Is that intuition?
Possible intuition is something which we cannot explain as such. We may not be able to say decipher, putting one to one and then ultimately mathematically things like that derive at certain things. But we are very definite that it is this. That sort of a say experience that you get sometimes, that is required or happens in each person's life.
Yes, it happens rather in everybody's life, but
Yes,
I think again it's it's dependent on the construct and the nature of the mind of that person, because you can question rationally and try to project or defend or dismiss an experience using your rational construct, your traditional construct, and say, oh no, this doesn't make sense. So you can brush it away as hallucination. You can brush it away as coincidence. These are the excuses that one often gives using the mind to dismiss gifts or experiences that draw attention to us that there is something beyond, right? But
yes,
to the aspirant who is ready, there is an openness in the mind, and he probably uses these triggers as a these act kind of as a trigger for him to start thinking a little more and then coming towards the path, right?
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, let's continue. So there's a illustrative story now. The stage of transition may also be illustrated by a story from the life of the same sage who happened to be a prince. Some days after the incident mentioned above, as he was riding on horseback, he came upon a pedestrian advancing towards him. Since the way of the horse was blocked by the presence of the pedestrian, the sage arrogantly ordered the man out of the way. The pedestrian refused, so the sage dismounted, and the following conversation was held. Who are you? Asked the pedestrian. I am the prince, answered the sage. But I do not know you to be the prince, said the pedestrian, and continued. I shall accept you as a prince only when I know you to be a prince and not otherwise. This encounter awakened the sage to the fact that God may exist even though he did not know him from personal experience, just as he was actually a prince, although the pedestrian did not know it from his own personal experience. Now that his mind was open to the possible existence of God, he set himself to the task of deciding that question in earnest. Beautiful story. Beautiful story that points out uh, a tarka point or a point of deduction, right? The mere uh, 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 so this is the key thing that we probably need to underline here. This encounter awakened the sage to the fact that God may exist even though he did not know him from personal experience.
Yes.
Just as he was actually a prince, although the pedestrian did not know it from his personal experience. So the mere uh, non-availability of experience does not negate the existence of something. So, but then unfortunately, the average man or average human being, and a lot of us as well, operate like that. And that's also the way we are taught as kids. Kids, what are we taught in school? Trust something that can be seen. Believe something and accept something through scientific experiment. What is scientific? You should be able to repeat, you should be able to measure, you should be able to predict. Right? These are things that are drilled into us as human beings. I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, but thanks to that, we assume that if we cannot experience it, it does not happen. And that is beautifully brought out by this analogy. So it needs a lot more thinking than just reading it like this. But I just wanted to comment.
The other aspect of this is, say in our Hindu way of life, faith and belief is the basis to start with. So we believe in what our elders believe in. Towards God, they say faith is a requirement. Towards the respect to the say teacher, faith is required. So that means to start with faith and then try to analyze and then find it out yourself later. But start with faith. Whereas science starts with doubt. Science does not start with faith. It starts with negation and then accepts on experimentation. So that is the basic difference I see here.
So how do you, I mean, I accept it broadly, but I'm thinking, what are the examples other than just oral evidence? What are the Vedantic principles, or what are the things we hear in Hindu thought that basically points us to faith and belief? In other religions, yes. So if you look at yesterday's word Shariat, right, the organized religion is a rule-based order, right? So you just don't question beyond a point. Whereas I believe that Hinduism is about personal discovery. So there is a lot more room for questioning. There's a lot more room for the person coming to terms with the reality and the truths on his own merit and on his own effort, rather than having to take a faith, or take. I mean, it's not thought down to, but it's discovery, right? So you are helped in the process of discovery. So if you take, I think Buddhism is also like that in a large sense, where you're only pointed to the truth and you're supposed to figure it out. Whereas if you look at the many of the traditional religions, arguably there is more a statute and code that exists that everybody accepts and is not expected to question, right? So your your thoughts
Yes,
on faith?
if I stop you there, accept
Yeah,
and question, that is Hinduism.
Hinduism. Yeah,
So to start with, you have a path given to you where you start with a faith. And say there are 2, 3 books which are written by Shankara. I think basics of how to go ahead. So Atma Bodha and Atma, I don't remember the other thing, where there are stages.
Tattva-bodha? No. Mhm.
Tattva Bodha and Atma Bodha, yes. So Tattva
Correct.
Bodha is actually sort of a steps on how to go ahead in towards God. So they say you have some 8 steps to follow. So as for say each step is some sort of a belief, and then you accept that at the end of that, and then go to the next belief, and accept that or realize that on your own experience. But beforehand, you follow these things. Then alone you can reach the goal properly. That is the way
Super.
I have seen that. So it
Thanks for
says
stopping
you
me and
have to
pointing that
realize
out.
yourself. You have to understand yourself. But they have a methodology. They have a way for you to go ahead in that process. So it doesn't
Perfect.
say
I'm in fact
you have
reminded.
to accept this, but you have to realize this.
Yes, yes. I think fine point that you brought out. The fine point being, I'm reminded of a phrase there in the Saraswati, Swami there in Saraswati used to use, belief pending inquiry,
Yes, yes.
right? So you do your
Yes,
inquiry, but then you start with a belief. So
belief.
belief pending and journey of a Vedantic aspirant. So beautiful addition to the faith point and the question that I had. Thank you for that response. Right. So others, any points? Okay, let's continue. Ordinary person indifferent to existence of God. God either exists or does not exist. If he exists, the search for him is amply justified. And if he does not exist, there is nothing to lose by seeking him. However, man does not usually turn to a real search for God as a matter of voluntary and joyous enterprise. He has to be driven to this search by disillusionment with those worldly things that allure him and from which he cannot deflect his mind. The ordinary person is completely engrossed in his activities in the gross world. He lives through its manifold experiences of joys and sorrows without even suspecting the existence of the deeper reality. He tries as best he can to have pleasures of the senses and to avoid different kinds of suffering. Occasions that provoke thought. Eat, drink, and be merry is the ordinary individual's philosophy. But in spite of his unceasing search for pleasure, he cannot altogether avoid suffering. And even when he succeeds in having pleasures of the senses, he is often satiated by them. While he thus goes through the daily round of varied experiences, there often arises some occasion when he begins to ask himself, what is the point of all this? Such a thought may arise from some untoward happening for which the person is not mentally prepared. It may be the, it may be the frustration of some confident expectation, or it may be an important change in his situation demanding radical readjustment and the giving up of established ways of thought and conduct. Usually, such an occasion arises from the frustration of some deep craving. If a deep craving happens to meet an impasse so that there is not the slightest chance of it ever being fulfilled, the psyche receives such a shock that it can no longer accept the type of life that may have been accepted hitherto without question. So, one specific reason for thinking and initiating the search is pointed out, or not even search, acknowledgement of alternate or something that exists beyond what we see through our eyes, right? So that happens when your ability to address a particular craving, a desire, or object of pleasure is frustrated. He uses the word frustrated. So if there is no way of getting to it, frustrated means basically there's no way of fulfilling that. There's absolute impossibility of that fulfillment happening for that particular desire. And that frustration can lead one to think about it, right? Any other reasons which lead you to come to that? come to thinking of the reality beyond?
This is
The other thing, yeah, go ahead.
no. This is as Krishna says, there are 4 types of people who come to me. So this is one of the aspirants. One of the aspirants, Artha. So those who are in need of something,
Arthi.
they are not getting it. So then they come to God asking for that. So when you are in frustration, you think there may be something beyond me. If I ask that, I will get it. So this process of getting a benefit out of praying may lead you initially towards something beyond you. Artharthi, Artharthi, Jignasu, and I think 4 ways of going towards God. One is in crisis and cries for relief. By this process, he reaches me. That is also one of the ways to God. That's what Krishna says.
Interesting. We should get a reference for those 4 types and then assess it in this context. The other thing is there is a reference to something here, right? So the hierarchy of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So that's another reason why the same desire does not give you the same reward or same happiness that it used to give you earlier, right? So after you have reached a particular point, then that does not give you the same pleasure. So then you go to the next thing, right? And to the smart person or to certain people, that actually creates a question in their mind. It seeds a question in their mind saying, hey, this was the objective that I worked for the last so many years, so many days, so many attempts. And now it does not give me the same pleasure that it did before, right? So that could be one way of starting the thinking.
Yes,
But
yes.
we will look at the 4 types that you have mentioned as well as in the Bhagavad Gita.
Yes.
Sure. Let us continue. Unharnessed power of desperateness is destructive. Under such circumstances, a person may be driven to utter desperation. And if the tremendous power generated by this disturbance of the psyche remains uncontrolled and undirected, it may even lead to serious mental derangement or attempts to commit suicide. Such a catastrophe overcomes those in whom desperateness is allied with thoughtlessness, for they allow impulse to have free and full. The unharnessed power of desperateness can only work destruction. The desperateness of a thoughtful person under similar circumstances is altogether different in results because the energy it releases is intelligently harnessed and directed toward a purpose. In the moment of such divine desperateness, a person makes the important decision to discover and realize the aim of life. There thus comes into existence a true search for lasting values. Henceforth, the burning query that refuses to be silenced is, what does it all lead to? So the question I have is, what is divine desperateness?
Yeah.
The word that is used here. So what is divine desperateness?
Say, if you
So is it
Karthik?
Yeah, go ahead, sure.
Yeah. So, there is an example given. I don't recollect where, but supposing you're in a desert and you are thirsty and you're desperately seeking to have water. Means uh, the thirst of a person when he is caught in a desert and without water for many days, and all he seeks is water. If you have that desperation to seek God, sorry, to seek God with such determination and desperation, that is, what you are trying to say.
Divine
I mean,
desperateness. Okay.
divine. Yes, when you want to seek Him above anything else in the world, and the intensity of the desire to seek God is at a very is very powerful potential.
At the
No,
peak.
the context here is desperation of unfulfillment of the desire. That is the desperation. So that should rekindle towards a reason. Is it worth getting it, or what is all the function of getting that particular thing? So if it drives you away from that desire, maybe that is the path towards God. That is the desperation. Either it will, that's why the example of suicide is also given there. So,
Directed, it can be harmful, but
harmful.
if directed correctly, it can take
Yes,
you towards thinking about God, and
God.
the acuteness and the peaking, the
Yes,
acuteness and the peaking of that uh, aspiration or this the desperation is divine desperateness. I think
yes. So here
I
I
agree.
can, which my what thought process I am going through is Purandara Dasa. So he was a very astute, say, uh, what gold smuggler is a not smuggler, a goldsmith. So he was in wealth, and then he had, say, his life where he accumulated lot of wealth, but his wife was slightly different. And at one point, he was given a chance to understand, or sort of a awakening, where he clearly understood that this craving for gold is not correct. I should crave for something different. And then, so his direction of search turned towards divinity, and he became a saint. That is one example which came to my mind at this point. He didn't go astray or psychic, but he became a saint.
Mm, mm, mm. Great. So now divine desperateness is explained further in the next chapter, next para. Divine desperateness, the beginning of spiritual awakening. When the mental energy of an individual is thus centered upon discovering the goal of life, he uses the power of desperateness creatively. He can no longer be content with the fleeting things of this life, and he is thoroughly skeptical about the ordinary values he had so far accepted without doubt. His only desire is to find the truth at any cost, and he does not rest satisfied with anything short of the truth. Divine desperateness is the beginning of spiritual awakening because it gives rise to the aspiration for God realization. In the moment of divine desperateness, when everything seems to give way, the person decides to take any risk to ascertain what of significance to his life lies behind the veil. Okay? So he goes into single-minded focus on uncovering the truth and focusing on that with all his energies and time. God or nothing. All the usual solaces have failed him, but at the same time, his inner voice refuses to reconcile itself completely with the position that life is devoid of all meaning. If he does not possess some hidden reality he has not hitherto known, then there is nothing at all worth living for. For him, there are only two alternatives. Either there is a hidden spiritual reality which prophets have described as God, or everything is meaningless. The second alternative is utterly unacceptable to the whole of man's personality, so he must try to the first alternative. Thus, the individual turns to God when he is at bay in worldly affairs. So it's either or. So you either think of God, or you say nothing is nothing is important, right? Nothing is worth living for, to use the phrase here. Re-evaluation of experiences in the light of posited reality. Now, since there is no direct access to this hidden reality that he possesses, he inspects his usual experiences for possible avenues leading to a significant beyond. Thus, he goes back to his usual experiences with the purpose of gathering some light on the path. This involves looking at everything from a new angle and entails a reinterpretation of each experience. He now not only has experience but tries to fathom its spiritual significance. He is not merely concerned with what it is. I'll repeat, he is not merely concerned with what it is, but with what it means in the march toward this hidden goal of existence. All this careful re-evaluation of experience results in his gaining an insight that could not come to him before he began his new search. Re-evaluation of an experience amounts to a new bit of wisdom, and each addition to spiritual wisdom necessarily brings about a modification of one's general attitude toward life. So the purely intellectual search for God or the hidden spiritual reality has its reverberations in the practical life of a person. His life now becomes a real experiment with perceived spiritual values. The focus in this paragraph and the one before is you start looking at the experiences through a different lens. So you
Yes.
evaluate them again, you evaluate the experiences again to see if there is something that is not being observed by the senses or by the mind and the senses together. And to understand and appreciate or at least progress towards understanding God more. Is that a way to summarize the
Yes, yes. The last line you need to read once again.
paras?
Last line of this para.
Okay.
His life
So
now
I'll read the
becomes a
last two.
real
I'll
experiment.
read the last two. Yeah. So the
Yes,
purely intellectual search for God or the hidden spiritual reality has its reverberations in the practical life of a person. His life now becomes a real experiment with perceived spiritual values. So you're looking
yes,
for spiritual values in the in and around you.
yes. This pursued spiritual values. Pursued means part of belief. So you go in search with this belief, you will get to the answer better than without some amount of belief or faith. That's what the basis for some of the ways taught in our spiritual Hindu philosophy.
Hmm.
That's why they give stress on faith and say this also. Baba has said about this in umpteen ways of say obedience, say
Surrender.
surrender. So all these, if you are very scientific, you may question all these things. So don't. You have to start with that obedience, surrender, and then go in the path. You will realize what is the reasoning or what is the values that are attached, and then how do you achieve the state of godhood later. That's how I look at it. So faith and obedience, surrender, as Baba told, are all similar things.
Great.
Jai Baba.
I think I can read further if you want.
Yeah, please. Yeah. Finding God is coming to oneself. Yeah.
Fighting
Please.
God is coming to oneself. The more he carries on this intelligent and purposive experimentation with his own life, the deeper becomes his comprehension of the true meaning of life. Until finally he discovers that as he is undergoing a complete transformation of his being, he is arriving at a true perception of the real significance of life as it is. With a clear and a tranquil vision of the real nature and worth of life, he realizes that God, whom, whom he has been so desperately seeking, is no stranger nor hidden and foreign entity. He is reality itself and not a hypothesis. His reality is seen with undimmed vision, that very reality of which he is a part and in which he has had his entire being and with which he is in fact identical. Okay.
So the beautiful last line. He is reality seen with undimmed vision. That very reality of which he is a part and which he has had his entire being and with which he is in fact identical.
Yeah.
So there is a contradiction also. You are a part and then you're also identical. You're a part of the whole. But I'm reminded of that video and Khalil Gibran that you sent yesterday. Maybe it's a good time to pause and read that quickly. I like that as well. But
Yes.
only thing is, I don't agree with what the person summarized it as. He
Yes. Yes.
oversimplified it, but as his context was different.
Mm. So we will stop with Khalil Ibrahim and not with the person who has exposed it
Exactly,
with
exactly,
his own
exactly.
interpretation.
Correct, correct. No, no, I'll just read the text actually. One second.
Yes, yes.
Well, yesterday also Google was struggling. I don't know. Or maybe it's my network. Maybe this
Network has
site is down.
patchy. Network is
Maybe
patchy.
this site is maybe this site is my audio also has trouble.
No,
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 audio,
we are able to hear you.
Okay,
audio is fine.
my God, what's wrong? Yeah, here it is. Fear by Khalil Gibran. It is said that before entering the sea, a river trembles with fear. She looks back at the path she has traveled from the peaks of the mountains, the long winding road crossing forests and villages. And in front of her, she sees an ocean so vast that to enter, there seems nothing more than to disappear forever. But there is no other way. The river cannot go back. Nobody can go back. To go back is impossible in existence. The river needs to take the risk of entering the ocean because only then will fear disappear. Because that's where the river will know it's not about disappearing into the ocean, but of becoming the ocean. So the last two paras are the most interesting. Nobody can go back. To go back is impossible in existence. The river needs to take the risk of entering the ocean because only then will fear disappear. Because that's where the river will know it's not about disappearing into the ocean, but of becoming the ocean. So,
Beautiful. Can you ping this URL in the chat? Is it possible?
I think it's very easily available, but I've put it on the.
Okay.
You mean on this chat? Yeah, of course I can. Right now, it's a very beautiful one. But by the way, is Khalil Gibran a perfect master? We don't know. I don't know. Did Baba say anything about him? I wanted to check yesterday. I forgot. And he writes, I don't know in which language, but then this is a this particular version seems to be a let's say something. Not sure if Baba is saying some. Yeah, there is. Oh, there is. Baba has asked her to read from Khalil Gibran. This
Say,
is
as per this
from.
list, I am a part of this group, but now the Windows is not allowing me here. Meher Baba Awakens. My mobile, my hotmail.com, Datto Sridharan is there.
Okay. Okay, so if somebody finds out more about
Yeah, got it.
whether Baba mentioned anything about Khalil Gibran, that will be good. Please share.
Yes.
Okay, let's just finish. I think we have enough time to probably
Yep,
finish
yep.
this. Oh yeah, okay, that's it. There's only one paragraph. Yeah,
So,
please.
yeah. Thus, though he begins by seeking something utterly new, he really arrives at a new.
So the interface is not showing the page. It is in Meher Baba Awakens weekly Sahas.
Can somebody else confirm that?
I can
I
see your
think you have
screen.
to just do. Yeah, you can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Ashok, can you? I think you have to move to the other window, Mamaji.
Okay. Just check
Yeah,
on
yeah.
that.
Okay, go ahead, Ashish.
Oh, it has started another interface. Okay, I'm fine now.
Go ahead, Ashish.
Thus, yeah. Thus, though he begins by seeking something utterly new, he really arrives at a new understanding of something ancient. The spiritual journey does not consist in arriving at a new destination, where a person gains what he did not have or becomes what he was not. It consists in the dissipation of his ignorance concerning himself and life, and the gradual growth of that understanding, which begins with spiritual awakening. The finding of God is coming to one's own self.
Yes.
Thus, though he begins with seeking something utterly new, he comes to himself and comes to his own, the realization of his own true nature. So we can either pause and wrap up a little early, or we can take up the next one. What would everyone like to do?
I'm okay with either way.
How much time do we have? 20 minutes. So
20 minutes.
let's take stages of the path and continue with it. So others are okay as well?
Yes.
Okay, let's do stages of the path. So in stages of path, we'll just read the essence of the chapter. Bondage adds value to freedom. Path begins with longing for deeper reality. Veil of manifold imagination. Gradual reversing of false working of imagination. Intermediate stages on the path are creations of imaginations. Pseudo sense of realization. And then there's a coverage for planes and states, nature of samadhi, each stage on a path, a curtailment on ego life. Then the first three fanas, angers of the fourth plane, and then fanas of fifth and sixth planes, and then fanafila or nirvikalpa, the state of conscious godhood. There's quite a few things that are covered in the stages of the path. So let us now take up stages of the path. Okay.
128.
The stages of the path.
Yeah, please.
11 persons. 11 persons.
all persons.
All
All
persons.
persons. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Bondage
Okay.
adds
Bondage.
value to of yeah. Go ahead.
Bondage adds to value of freedom. All persons have to pass through the state of bondage, but this period of bondage is not to be looked upon as a meaningless episode in the evolution of life. One has to experience being caged if one is to appreciate freedom. If in the entire span of its life a fish has not come out of the water even once, it was no chance of appreciating the value of water. From its birth till its death, it has lived only in water, and it is not in the position to understand what water really means to its being. But if it is taken out of water, even for a moment, it longs for water and becomes qualified by that experience to appreciate the importance of water. In the same way, in the same way, if life were constantly free and manifested no bondage, man would miss the real significance of freedom. To experience spiritual bondage and no intense desire to be free from it are both a preparation for the full enjoyment of the freedom that is to come. Next, path begins with longing for deeper reality. As the fish that is taken out of the water longs to go back in the water, the aspirant who has pursued the goal longs to be united with God. In fact, the longing to go back to the source is present in each being from the very time that is separated from the source by the well of ignorance, but the being is unconscious of the longing till it, as an aspirant, enters the spiritual path. One can, in a sense, become accustomed to ignorance, just as a person in a train may get accustomed to the darkness of a tunnel when the train has been passing through it for some time. Even then, there is a definite discomfort and walk and undefinable sense of restlessness owing to the feeling that something is missing. This something is apprehended from the very beginning as being of tremendous significance. In the stages of dense ignorance, this something is often inadvertently identified with the variegated things of this mundane world.
Mundane world.
Variegated things of
Mundane world.
mundane world. Yeah.
Karthik,
So yeah, sure.
may
Yeah, please. Hi, Mahu. Jai Deve, Jai Baba.
yeah, Jay Baba.
Yeah, go ahead, Ashok.
So divine desperateness, I'm reminded of another example. So if you take the fish out of the water, it is very restless and it wants to have union with come back to the water. So that in the same way, divine desperateness is when you want to have union with the highest of the high, Meher Baba.
Yes.
But
Yes.
is the divine desperateness equivalent to the fish and water?
No, it's not.
Only if you equate water to God.
Water means the
See,
ocean.
there is the analogy, the analogical reference here in this chapter is you will not appreciate the need for water till you lose it. So a fish that has never experienced being away from water will never know the significance of water. That's the analogy that is brought out here.
Okay.
So, right? Do you see what I'm saying? So I'll just go
Yes.
back and show you that line.
I got
You
what
go
you said.
here, but
That
if it is taken out, he in fact starts with caged, right? So yeah, one has to experience being caged if one is to appreciate freedom. If in the entire span of its life, a fish has not come out of the water even once, it has no chance of appreciating the value of water. From its birth till its death, it has lived only in water and it's not in a position to understand what water really means to its being. But if it is taken out of water even for a moment, it longs for water and becomes qualified by that experience to appreciate the importance of water. There is a desperation. There is a desperation to get back to water. Get back to water, like in this case. But it's not uh, that kind of desperateness and divine desperateness that we covered in the last chapter. Is my humble interpretation.
yeah, that's fine. Can you read the next two lines as well? I think that's
One more thing, it's important for us to actually emphasize here is also, beside all that it's said, in a way, really speaking, it's very sad when I think about it, that we don't know our source. We don't know what is latent with us. We don't know what is possible. Um, and the reason we don't know is because of the ignorance. The fish, when it is in the water, doesn't know what the value of that water is, how it has embraced that fish, how it provides for him, how it brings him. So till he comes out of the water and then goes back to again. Say, oh, look at that. Look what this water has been providing to us. Same as human being or our consciousness. Our ignorance really doesn't know. I would go a little bit further. Our ignorance doesn't even know who God is. We don't really know who God is. We don't know even who Meher Baba is. It's our ignorance. Till that veil, little by little, goes away.
Great. Yeah, ignorance is the starting point. So, Ashok, you wanted me to read the last two lines, right? So, we stopped at the importance of water. In the same way, if life were constantly free and manifested no bondage, man would miss the real significance of freedom. To experience spiritual bondage and no intense desire to be free from it are both a preparation for the full enjoyment of the freedom that is to come. Right?
So I think the
Can
significant
you
thing is
read, please?
preparation.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, Ashok and then Mahu. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Ashok.
So the important thing is that you have to be prepared to be on the path. That's what comes out from that last two lines. A takeaway for me at least. Jai Baba.
Yeah, Mahu, you were saying something. Okay, let's go back and experience the train and tunnel. Ashish, next para.
Yes, yeah. When one's experience of this world is sufficiently mature, however, the repeated disillusionments in life set one on the right track to discover what is missing. From that moment, the individual seeks a reality that is deeper than changing forms. This moment might apply be described as the first initiation of the aspirant. From the moment of initiation into the path, the longing to unite with the source from which he has been separated becomes articulate and intense. Just as the person in the tunnel longs for the light for longs for light all the more intensely after he sees a streak of light coming from the other end, the person who has had glimpse of the goal longs to hasten toward it with all the speed he can
Hasten,
command.
longs to hasten. Yeah.
Yeah, hasten toward it.
Longs to hasten.
Yeah,
Yeah,
hasten toward it with all the speed he can command.
So what's the point that's being made here? So you need that first glimpse, you need that first light through the end of the tunnel. So you at least know there is something that you're progressing towards. And that acts as a trigger, as a motivator, as a reason for you to keep up the faith and keep putting the effort. Is that a good way of understanding this?
Yeah, I would just like to add that it's a motivation when you see light at the end of the tunnel, or when you see that you are trying to reach uh, the reality. It motivates us to be more intense and more, put more efforts. That's what is a takeaway for me.
What are the examples for this light? How that soul will know these lights is for that?
What are
So
the
your first, go ahead, Mahu.
No, I was going to say, yes, this is possible if there, because there's a involution of consciousness when you enter the path. And that is, you go through different plane of consciousness. As long as you do not get stuck in the allurement on all the light and experiences that you experience actually within in each plane of consciousness, you don't get stuck, because some get stuck, and that's where the musts happen, must come. Baba goes and contact them and push them through. As long as that doesn't happen, that's always a possibility. I mean, many people who are in a spiritual path, they themselves kind of prolong this process of reaching the goal. Like you could see, for example, I've heard actually from people that, some people are get stuck in a third plane of consciousness for many, many years, even several advent of the avatar. Can you believe that? Several advent. And what is the advent of the avatar? 700 to 1400 years. And the only reason that they get stuck for that many years is really how they themselves become a veil. They get stuck and they just stuck there till the master contacts them and push them through. That possibility is always there.
Yes, agreed. Correct. So, any other thoughts, Ashok? I thought you were trying to say something as well.
No, it's okay. Fine.
Okay. Okay. Let's continue. I think Mamaji, you're mute. You have to mute your mic. Continue. Continue, Ashish.
Well of manifold imagination. On the spiritual path, there are 6 stations, the 7th station being the terminus or the goal. Each intermediate station is, in its own way, a kind of imaginative anticipation of the goal. The veil that separates man from God consists of false imagination, and this veil has many folds. Before entering the path, the person is shrouded in this veil manifold imagination, with the result that he cannot even entertain the thought of being other than a separate, enclosed, finite individual. The ego consciousness has crystallized out of the working of the manifold false imagination. And the conscious longing for union with God is the first shaking of the entire structure of the ego, which has been built during the period of the false working of imagination. Okay, let me continue. Traversing the spiritual path consists in undoing the result of the false working of imagination or dropping several folds of the veil, which has created a sense of unassailable separateness and irredeemable isolation. Thus far, the person had clung firmly to the idea of his separate existence and secured it behind the formidable walls of thick ignorance. But from now on he enters into some kind of communication with the larger reality. The more he communes with reality, the thinner becomes the veil of ignorance. With the gradual wearing out of separateness and egoism, he gains an increasing sense of merging in larger reality.
We can stop here, but then let's just look at the point that's being made here. So, if you look at the paragraph since we started, first is bondage adds to value of freedom. So here the point of the fish and the caging of the bird, right? So you only with a restriction can you appreciate freedom, and then he extends that with the train and the tunnel and the light at the end of the tunnel. So a small what starts as the recognition of freedom, and then the pursuit of freedom is motivated more by the visibility of that light, right? And then he just about launches into the stages of the path, in this chapter, where he talks about the stations. There are 6 stations, 7th being the terminus, and explains that all of them are we are shrouded in multiple veils of imagination as we are, right? I think let's pause here and then continue from this next para, which is gradual reversing of the false working of imagination. From next,
Maybe we will start with the beginning itself next time.
Sure, we can also do that. We can also do that.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And
In fact,
as a homework for the group, so each one can say something about how did they reach this, say, spiritual path if they are there already. Sort of point in their life.
Yeah, okay, good question. But what is the point of the discovery of the need for water as a fish?
Yes.
What is the first recognition of alternate values that, I mean, the world of, I mean, going beyond the phenomenal world? So yeah, maybe we can start with that question as a personal question and then take it from there.
Okay.
Yeah. So Mahu, you were late today. Out in the town?
Yes, I'm so sorry. I was late today because my niece, you know, this is a Christmas time and holiday here.
Yeah.
So my niece from East Coast is actually visiting me, and I haven't seen her for a long time, but I have been taking her out and showing her stuff, and so just time flies by, although I was conscious of time, but I couldn't manage to be here on time. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, I'm just.
But
I'm
she's
just,
leaving actually. Yeah, she's leaving on 26th. A 33-year-old, very smart, genius lady she is. She's already she studies in Princeton. Yeah, she's finishing her PhD. Yeah, she's finishing her PhD and dissertation. She'll be graduating this May from Princeton.
Wonderful.
And everything is paid for. Can you believe it? Everything.
Wonderful.
She has, yeah, all
like
the
you said,
academic
genius.
Wow.
Yeah, some people have it, you know, must be her sanskaras. I can talk to her about this concept of sanskaras, but this lifetime perhaps she has come in to complete this role, this task, this experience, and then go back for the next incarnation. That's the story of our life. Each one of us have different role in this life. Yeah.
You bet.
Absolutely, Mahu. You put it right. Each of us have got a different role based on our sanskars. Just a question:
Yeah.
You're based in which city in US?
I am
Stopping
in